Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Making Your Mark podcast. I'm your host, Mark Bundang, and today I want to take the time to recap Season 2. Season 2 had 9 guests, 9 episodes, and to me, I think what makes it special is that, I learned some lessons from Season 1. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wasn't even sure if I was going to do a Season 2, but I was able to take a lot of the learnings from Season 1 and turn them into something good and make some changes into Season 2. One of the things that I really got a good grasp on was how to conduct the interview, how to structure the interview. I had a base. For those of you who don't know what a little bit behind the scenes, for every guest, I usually give them a format to follow, and then we have a pre-recording session, and then we end up talking about the ideas before we even get on the air. And it's usually a great journey for the guests. They usually tell me afterwards they're so glad that they did it. But I think for me, in going through the process, I was able to get much better at it. I was able to pull out some of the stuff. I was able to coach them a bit better because of experience. And the result is much smoother episodes, much more smoother transitions between questions. I'm able to improvise on the fly, even if we don't follow the podcast form that we talked about and filled out. So I think that kind of helped me out and helped the podcast out, and the guests from Season 2 definitely benefited from that kind of experience. I'd like to recap some of the highlights that I felt stood out from each of the episodes itself. What kind of takeaway I had, and then why was it so special to me? Definitely, I invite you to leave comments in whatever platform you're going to watch this on or hear this on, because I want to learn and I want to know what's of value to you. Without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go from episode 11 all the way to episode 19, showing you some of the highlights that I felt stood out for me. And then I'll kind of close out the episode with some concluding thoughts, and then my thoughts on what I think we might be able to do in future seasons of the Making Your Mark podcast. So let's begin. Our first guest for this season, or episode 11, shall we say, was Kate Good. So for those of you who saw the episode, for those of you who know her, she's a former world-class figure skater and world-class athlete who had a bit of a tragic turning point in her ice skating career. It came prematurely, or unexpectedly. And then in the process, Kate had to figure out what was her identity as a person and as a performer, as someone who contributes to society, and be the best that she can be. So if you haven't checked that episode out, you should really check it out, because it is a very inspiring episode in terms of resilience, in terms of how you can turn things around no matter where you are in life. So here's a clip of something that really stood out for me in her episode. A lot of it has to do with the mental game that you have to have when you're a high performance athlete turned marketer. So here we go. I know a lot of us, including myself, I'm constantly trying to manage what comes in and then what goes out. Do you have any special advice to get started on that?
The best thing that I did was I went on a news fast. So I stopped watching the news. I stopped reading the news. We live in a world where you will find out if there's something that's important enough. But that was a huge shift for me, even in my energy, the way that I was thinking, the words in my head. 2 is really looking at music. There are a lot of music that we listen to is highly negative. Start to really listen to the lyrics that you're listening to every day. Are they negative or are they positive? And then the third piece I would say is being really careful about not saying negative things out loud. So I can't, I'm such a klutz, I always mess up. Not voicing negativity out loud is a huge step towards changing that negative voice inside your head.
So now let's move on to episode 2. So episode 2 was with how do I call it? I guess we're not blood related, but Johnny Luck is my cousin by marriage. He lives out in the UK. And if you're in the UK, you may recognize him. He's been out there doing public service, also working in the private sector. He's run for parliament a couple of times, and I certainly hope that he continues and actually succeeds in running his third campaign. What really stood out for Johnny, or at least for my episode with Johnny, was, in this age, I think it's difficult to be a politician. It's absolutely difficult. And people are extremely jaded. They think that they're informed because, of social media and all of the platforms feeding them information or selected information based on what the algorithm thinks they want to see. So people are incredibly opinionated, but incredibly jaded because each failure or apparent failure of a politician or politics, we tend to identify and amplify the negative. And we don't really give chances to politicians for for the amount of work that they actually do. There's a lot of good that a lot of politicians do that we never hear about. I think the moment that really stood out for me, there were many, but one of them was the time in the podcast episode where he talks about why he got into politics. So let's take a moment. Let's check that out. Here's a clip. Was it something you thought of when you were young to run eventually for parliament?
No, not at all. So I guess the process started at university. So I did a science degree. But my final year at university, I became a teaching assistant in a local school, a really rundown school in County Durham, which is very north. I saw a lot of deprivation firsthand, and I wanted to then go into public policy more than just making money in the city. So then I joined the civil service fast stream, which is like the government's leadership program. And now I'm doing policy and doing government stuff. But then during the Brexit negotiations, I realized that you can have whatever negotiating paper. If you can't pass it in Parliament, it doesn't matter. So then I saw the gap between policy and politics. So soon after that, I went into politics. But I've been campaigning, just in general, about stuff since I was probably 20, for over 10 years.
Moving on to another episode, episode 13. Now, this one is very different from the other two. This one is with an old colleague of mine. Her name is Kim Handysides, and she's a voiceover actress, has been for decades. And she's a real pro and a real entrepreneur with some real success. I think for her, what I really liked was she was able to figure things out even though she didn't know. Yeah, I mean, she wasn't afraid to, I guess, as the clip will allude to that I'm going to show you, throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks. So let's check this one out. One of the things that resonated with me was you jumped onto SEO. How did you know to use that channel? Did you try the other ones and they failed, or?
Yes, I was trying everything. Like I say, spaghetti on the wall. I was, I hired a student, a university student for a whole summer, and we did Instagram campaigns, and I spent all that money and it flopped. What I eventually ended up getting results from was search engine optimization. So I love to write. As like storytelling. I built up my website from, an initial one page to, I think I've got, 600 or 700 pages on there. A lot of it having to do with blog posts, but kind of sitting there and evaluating every week or month or annually too. How can I be of service more? What else can I offer the people who might land on my site? What else can I do for them? How can I make them feel like, oh, this person actually is a really good resource for XYZ?
What I want to move on to now is episode 14. Now, this one is with Stella Filippatos. We did an MBA around the same time. I met her in a class that I really loved by Professor Jordan Labelle. It was experiential marketing. So I met her there. I saw how she operated, and she's an excellent professional, excellent academic, always goes for the very best that she can do. And let me tell you, the best that she can do is great. So she would be humbled by me saying that, but I'm going to say it anyways. What I really loved about Stella is a mix of her humility but also knows she's come into her own in terms of recognizing what she's good at and what she can give. And that was a hard lesson for her to kind of learn along the way. But now she's kind of learned it at this stage in her career, and she's very generous at giving back to the community and giving back to an audience. This message was something that she really wanted to make sure that everyone got. Here we go. What is the balance between letting the work speak for itself, if you're a humble person as well, versus advertising? This is, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this.
I really struggle with this. I like to say what the team has been achieving, what we've been doing. And I think it can be done also in a humble way, like by choosing your moments when to speak up about your achievements and about yourself. Well, there's years in my career where I would have worked 60, 80-hour weeks, not going to networking events, not meeting up with the executive leadership of my program or my team. When staying behind a laptop and doing tons of work is great, but if you're not there to speak of them, how would they know who met those KPIs for the department? If you're not there to speak on your behalf, and your boss is not inclined to do so necessarily, if you haven't even spoken to your boss about all you've accomplished, then who will?
Okay, moving on to episode 15. So episode 15 was with Samantha Bateman. And if you saw the episode, you'll have seen that I talk about her, how she helped me out 3 or 4 years ago when I was at a stage in my career where I was trying to figure things out, which, you know what, to be honest, happens a little bit more frequently than I would think, But anyway, I think the most compelling part of her story that stood out for me was the fact that she had an opportunity. She had a very difficult, childhood, if you will, growing up. And you can watch the episode and you can actually hear the details of her story. At one point early on, she had an opportunity to take something from that was offered to her that would have made life a lot easier if she had taken it, at least at that point in time. But as you can probably tell, she wouldn't be who she is today if she didn't make that decision back then, decades ago. Here's a clip that kind of tells you a little bit about who Samantha Bateman is.
I would tell you the early part of my childhood was really kind of magical and sweet. And then kind of from the time I was 12, 13, it was kind of rock and roll. And so when I was told to leave, I just was like, I'm never going back anyway. Like, I'm just like, this is my ticket out. And then I went to live at my best friend's house, and her parents said, we're going to give you a place to stay. You've got a bedroom, a bathroom in the basement. You've got a living room. Like it was like amazing. And they're like, we're going to pay everything. You just need to get a little part-time job just to pay for your extra spending. And we're going to pay your education. You want to go off and do your PhD. We're going to pay for it all. I'm eternally grateful for them, but I couldn't accept it. And so I left, and in part to preserve my friendship with my best friend, who's still my best friend. I'm not your child. I can't. It's too big of a gift to accept.
So episode 16, that was with a person named Ann Pertus. So Anne and I met maybe a year and a half ago at the John Molson School of Business MBA case competition. And ever since then, I guess the contact that I made with her, we've had a few fruitful interactions. One of them was this episode. And the other one was actually the fun fact, the introduction of someone who would become or eventually become my first ever episode, MJ Pleba. So I'm very grateful for Anne for having given me 2 episodes, basically, of the Making Your Mark podcast, or at least contributing to 2 of those episodes. Anne is someone of great integrity, and what I admire about Anne is that she shares this one thing in the episode where it's an experience where she was new to the university, new to that kind of like maybe new to being an adult. And she was astonished at I guess how some people don't have that same level of integrity. So here, have a look.
I was in Economics 101 class. So, first year, it's a lot of students in that auditorium. So, here, working hard and studying, and here comes the midterm. And I'm looking around. There's these guys sitting around this other person who's a good student, and they are clearly cheating. Anyways, I finish, I do my thing, and on my weekly call with my dad, and I tell him this, I'm working hard and they're getting good marks. And I was livid, and he was very calm. And basically, without dismissing what I was feeling, saying, you do you and do what you need to do to learn to get your university degree. These individuals, what have they learned? Let them. You do what you have to do for yourself. So be authentic and be who you are, and that value of integrity.
Okay. Episode 17. So episode 17 was very near and dear to my heart because it was an opportunity for me to have a conversation with someone who has been very dear to me since my childhood. Kim Gutierrez is, without a doubt, one of the most resilient, most caring, most kind human beings that I know. And if I guess I know because of personal, a personal relationship with her, I know trials and tribulations she's had to endure throughout most of her life. And to see her be as strong and as kind and as self-aware and still persevering as she is today, is it's incredible. Like she's an inspiration to everyone that she touches, speaks to, and interacts with, especially what I know. I mean, like for those of you who might not know, Kim, she lost her mom maybe a little bit more than a decade ago. And so this moment early on in our conversation in the episode really touched me considerably. It kind of tells you the power of family, the power of love, and how that shapes your destiny and your direction in life. So here we go.
And for me, growing up in a household where my mom was a nurse, telling her stories about her experience as being a nurse has shown me sides of nursing, the good and the bad. And therefore, when I went into nursing, I was able to relate. When I actually experienced, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom was right. The good, the bad, the hardships. Nursing is 24/7. How my mom, my aunts, my cousins, how they were able to manage their shift work with and balance it with family life really inspired me. Then I want to try and do this for my family. And that's what I think brought me to nursing. That was one of the factors, is that I wanted to be like my mom.
So we're almost to the end. Here's episode 18. Derick Kulibaba. So Derick Kulibaba and I used to work at a company, a very big, rich company. I didn't have that much time with it, but I knew him from there. I mean, you could hardly, I guess, not notice him. He's got this charisma about him. He's, for those of you who haven't seen the episode yet, Derick is a former boxer, former IT guy, former very successful salesperson in corporate life. And now he's a founding member or founding owner of the boxing gym Seconds Out Montreal. So what I love about Derick's story is that he also is able to turn tragedy into something beautiful, something great, something positive that changes people's lives. Actually, one of the things that you should know about Derick is that in the process of going through all that he went through and knowing the kind of life that large corporate life demands of its employees, it's amazing that he has this truth about him regarding work-life balance. Here you go. You speak a lot about life balance. What is that to you? And then when did you realize it?
It's a small business. I run it. It's not 9 to 5, but 6:30 to 9 in the morning. Then I leave, I come back maybe at 1 to 3, and then come back from 6 to 8. It's still busy, and in between those, I don't just have a coffee break. It is a business I'm running, but the work-life balance is very different. People often tell me, "Oh, what's your dream job?" Yes, it is, but it's a business still. It's still a business I got to take care of. You got to pay the rent, you got to pay you got to make enough money to live. But it's very different, the work-life balance that people see in a corporation. I don't think they fully understand it. And the key point is, I think, is like if you don't need to work to a certain extent, if you've been saving money, RRSP, TFSA, if you don't need to, why? You'd be surprised sometimes. If you change stuff around, you don't really need it.
And I guess finally, here's a really great final episode for season 2. And you can't help but like this guy. Saaj Patel is a hardworking, honest mobile mechanic service provider. So, honest mechanic service provider in an industry that's known for not being honest. That's a pretty big accomplishment that Saaj is able to boast of, which he doesn't, by the way. He's not boastful. He's a very humble guy. And you can't help but notice how good he is when you speak to him, even for the first time. Like I've met him maybe once or twice in person. And the first time that I met him, I was able to strike up a conversation. He was able to give me some honest assessment about my car. And I can tell right away that this is a guy you want to root for. And you know why? Because he's the type of guy that would help you out if you needed it, even if he's not able to make money off it from his business point of view. So Saaj Patel is one of those guys that, although he does have to make money, he knows how to be flexible about helping you out, helping his customers out. Check out this clip. Does the economy play a factor in your business?
Like how expensive everything is now, you mean?
Yeah, it could be, or like when people have less money because a recession is.
Yeah. Like, I have some clients who are willing to spend whatever they have to on their car to keep it in tip-top shape, and I have other clients who just want to do the bare minimum and try and just get by. Which you have to respect based off their budget and their situation, right? Not everyone's situation in life is the same, right? So I always try to make it as affordable as possible for clients, offer payment plans. I give discounts to people. You have some customers who are single mom, and I feel for them. It's definitely not easy, especially if you're paying for gas, you're paying for your mortgage or your rent, and you're paying for a car. And then on top of that, then you find out, oh, okay, now I need to change all my brakes. It's going to cost me $1,000, right? So I always try to make things affordable for people, try and help people out.
Well, there you go. That's the last one. So I want to take the time here to say thank you to each and every one of those guests that appeared in this season. I know my life's better for it. And judging by the views and the subscriber increases that we've experienced here on the Making Your Mark podcast, I can tell you that they really helped to grow the message behind the Making Your Mark podcast. So its mission is really simply to help those who watch it and the audience that it's intended for, to really help them in their career journeys, give them inspiration, give them some tips on how they can navigate their careers or life in general, like life pivots that you need to make, maybe come to realizations that you really have to come to in order to make your life better, to make the changes you need. I find that as we go along in making these episodes, at least I should speak because I'm kind of a solo team here at the moment. I think that one of the things that I'll take away from season 2 is that there are many people out there who are willing to help you along the way. You just have to be kind, put the positive energy out there, and then it'll come back to you. So I think each and every one of these season 2 guests represent that. And I want to thank them for taking the time to share some of their stories and their wisdom with you, with me, and helping to make the world just a bit better. than it was before the episode. Also, you know what? I would be remiss without saying that there were some guests that were supposed to appear on season 2, and for one reason or another, we weren't able to connect and record an episode. For those people, the door is not closed. The door is open. Come back when you're ready, if you feel like it. If not, that's cool too. There's plenty of people out there who could benefit from your wisdom. So I hope you do choose to spread it out, spread your wisdom out and share, even if it's not on this podcast. But if I'm lucky, you will be. And don't worry, I'm going to go invite you and maybe some of the other guests that we've had previously. I might invite them back for a special episode or two. So look out for that, Mr. and Mrs. Audience. And what I'd like to say is thank you very much to you for watching this, I guess, not just this episode, but this podcast. For those of you who are loyal viewers, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you're helping to spread the message that the Making Your Mark podcast is intending to spread. And I will see you on a future episode. Have a great day and a great life. We'll see you soon. Bye. Hey, thank you very much. If you made it this far to the end of the podcast, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, we're just starting out, so it would help if I could just ask one more thing of you. Please subscribe to this channel and share the podcast, share the episode on any platform you can. It would mean a lot to me and it would help us a lot. Thank you.